Live from the MacGyver Project studios in sunny, warm Wisconsin, it's Nick with the Olympic Legends podcast. Today with episode 3, it's the podcast's first foray into the Winter Olympics. My guest today is Jim Sedin, the youngest member of the U.S. Olympic hockey team in Oslo 1952. The tournament in that Olympics was 9 countries in a round robin, so the U.S. played 8 games, and the winners were based on record with a tiebreaker of goal differential. There was no playoff. Going into the last game against group leader Canada, the U.S. Record was 6-1 with their one loss coming against Sweden. If they would have lost to Canada, the record would have been 6-2, and they would have gotten 4th place and lost out to Sweden and Czechoslovakia on goal difference, since those countries also finished 6-2. But trailing 3-2 to Canada, Jim scored a goal with 2 minutes and 9 seconds left in the game to tie it up, and that goal gave the U.S. the silver medal, since they now finished 6-1-1. That's a pretty awesome story. And then Sweden and Czechoslovakia actually tied on goal difference, which is pretty incredible for 9 games, for 8 games. And the Czechs thought they would get the bronze since they beat Sweden straight up, but they were forced to actually play a playoff game, and Sweden won. So a little controversy there, but that's another story for another time. So that's a little background on Jim. Let's give him a call.
Hello?
Hi, Jim.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, this is Nick. Hey, how are you tonight?
Good. Sorry, I was having trouble with my computer, and I was talking to a guy.
Oh, not a problem. Well, yeah, thanks for talking to me. I just recently started this podcast where I've talked to former Olympians, and you're the third person I've talked to, and you're actually my first Winter Olympian, and I had just been reading about the 1952 Olympics, and I thought it sounded like an interesting story, so I'm glad to get a hold of you. I guess first I wanted to ask about your early childhood, and you were born in St. Paul, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I lived across the street from a golf course and a athletic field, kind of, and so I started skating when I was about 5 years old, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious what it was like growing up in the 30s playing hockey in Minnesota. Like, were there like ponds that were around, or were there ice rinks, or could you pretty easily get a game of hockey?
Well, what we did was in the early part of the fall, as soon as it froze, we'd go play on the ponds that were around.
Yeah.
Then, as soon as it got seriously cold, the playground that was across the street, basically from my house, they put up a rink and flooded it. And so they kept that as long as it was cold through the winter, which usually lasted from, late November until middle of March or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could go across the street until I was 11 anyway. We lived there, and so I skated quite a bit. And then actually I moved when I was 11, but I was still only about 5 or 6 blocks away from it. So it was convenient all the time.
So you must have played a lot of hockey then growing up.
Yeah, I played every day. Probably.
Every day, okay.
Or twice a day.
Wow.
And 3 times on the weekend or something.
Yeah. What position were you?
Well, when I was in high school, I was a center or a wing. And my first 2 years in college, I was also a winger, a center. And then I switched to being a defenseman as a senior at the University of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And then played as a defenseman there. And then I played as a defenseman on the Olympic team. Okay.
Well, and what year were you at Minnesota when you went to the Olympics?
I had just graduated in 1951,
mm-hmm.
and the Olympics were the following winter.
Okay. And what was the tryout process like for the Olympic team?
Well, it's interesting because it's so different now.
Yeah.
There were no pros basically then,
mm-hmm.
And they did tryouts in Minneapolis and in Boston in early December. They put the two groups together in Boston in the middle of December. They picked the team just before Christmas, basically. And then we played around the East Coast, and the team, some of the semi-pro teams, and we actually played the Boston Bruins in an exhibition game.
Oh, really?
And then we went to Europe, I think, about the middle of January, and played first in London, and then in Paris, and we played in Zurich, and we played, all over Europe, basically, Belgium, Germany, and then finally went up to Norway for the Olympics in, I guess it was the early part of February, maybe.
How did you do against the Boston Bruins? Do you remember?
Yeah, we, they were kind of playing with us, I guess, but we lost 7-4.
Okay.
I scored a goal against them.
Oh. Did you know most of the players on the team, like from college or from playing against them?
I knew them from various ways. And I played with some of them. The three of us, let's see, from the Twin Cities, two of us had played from Minnesota at the same time, and another guy had played for Minnesota a couple of years before that. So I knew the Minnesota guys pretty well. I didn't know any of the Eastern guys, really. Well, I did too. One of them was actually from Minneapolis who played for Dartmouth, so
okay.
I knew him. But otherwise, I just met those guys when we went for the tryouts out there.
And I read somewhere that you were the youngest member of the team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 21.
So then, so you get to Norway, and it looks like you play 8 games in this giant round robin of 9 teams. Did you play every game?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like you had 15 people on the team, so I imagine you all must have gotten a lot of playing time.
Yeah, that's right. We had 4 defensemen, 2 goaltenders, and 3 lines. And so, yeah, if anybody got hurt, we actually doubled up, and one of the defensemen would play on the line part of the time.
And was the level of hockey? Was it? I imagine must have been the highest that you'd seen, like compared to college.
Yeah, it was much better hockey than college hockey. The Russians didn't play until 1956, so they didn't have a team there. But Czechoslovakia and Sweden and Finland had pretty good teams.
So it looks like you, just in looking at the results here, you won your first or the first 6 out of 7 games, and you lost to Sweden, and then you're playing Canada in the last game. And if I'm following the table correctly, if you would have lost to Canada, you would have gotten 4th place. Is that correct?
That's right. We wouldn't have gotten a medal.
Yeah, it's because it looks like you would have had the same record as Sweden and Czechoslovakia, but you would have had less goal difference.
Exactly.
But then you scored with 2 minutes left, right?
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you remember the play?
That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was playing defense, and I got the puck away at our blue line, and I passed it up to one of the wings, and then I went up to the blue line, and I got it back just inside the blue line. Took a couple steps and shot and was in.
Yeah.
It was great, exciting.
Yeah. Do you remember the celebration, or did everybody must have went crazy?
Yeah. Well, we had a wonderful time.
Yeah. That Canada team, I read that they had outshot you pretty good in that game. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I think they were at least 2-1, probably.
Okay.
We had actually 2 terrific goaltenders. We probably had the best goaltenders.
Really?
In the whole tournament, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah, because I read that the Canada team was from Edmonton, and it was almost like they just picked one. Like they didn't have tryouts; they just picked one team that was already playing together.
Well, they did that, but they brought in a number of players from other Canadian teams.
Okay.
So it wasn't strictly one team.
So do you remember the medal ceremony at all, or where?
The medal ceremony at the Olympics.
Yeah. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah. It was it was a big operation, and we all got up on a stage, I think, as I recall, and they presented the medals, and it was really pretty nice.
And where's the silver medal now? Do you ever take it out and look at it?
Well, actually, I've got it on the wall in my office.
Really? Okay. And did you have any thoughts of playing pro hockey, or did you try to play pro hockey?
Well, I actually had played for St. Paul in a league that was about 6 teams, Minneapolis, Evelyn, about 6 teams from Minnesota and a couple teams from South Dakota and Iowa, I think it was. And I played for them in 1952. And then I went to graduate school at Caltech in California in 1953, and I played for San Bernardino in a league that was basically a Pacific Coast, sort of the main coast hockey league had collapsed the year before, and so this was again the team from San Bernardino was actually from Canada. I can't think of Western Canada, and I played with that team. And the team from Fresno was from Niagara Falls, Ontario, I guess it is. And the team from LA was ex-pro players from the league that folded the year before. And Oakland was, again, a bunch of college players plus a few players from the league that had folded the year before. So it was a good league. Okay. That was kind of the end of my professional type playing where I got paid anything. So I played with all kinds of different amateur stuff. I went back and taught at the University of Minnesota for a year in 56, 57, and I played in a league in Minnesota again there. And played various places, and then I quit playing when I was about 35 because it was still body checking and slap shots, and I was only not practicing at all and playing once a week or something. It just got to be too much. And then I started over again when Charles Schultz, the guy that drove Peanuts, from St. Paul, actually. Oh, really? And he started a league in California, which he called the senior. I've forgotten what he called it. He called it something, but they made him change it, and he changed it to something related to Snoopy, I think. Okay. But he brought in teams from all over Canada, actually in the U.S., age 40 and up. It was like 40 to 45, 45 to 50, and up to, I actually played in that from when I was about 45 until I was probably 65. And I played in the 60 to 65 team, I think, the last year I played.
Yeah, I just looked it up. There's something called the Snoopy's Snoopy Senior Hockey Tournament.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
That had a lot of good players, all the ex-pro players and everything came out and played in that.
And what did you study at Caltech?
I got a PhD in electrical engineering. Okay.
And then what did you do? What did you end up doing with that?
I worked for Hughes Aircraft on microwave devices and power tubes for radar systems. And then I went to a startup company in Palo Alto that did the same thing. And then I started a company of my own doing, again, similar stuff and sold that to Varian Associates. college when I was about 42 or so. And then I was a kid that had been working for me in the microwave business, had started a company when the personal computer stuff started. And he was friends with Jobs and these guys who were at the beginning of the personal computer. And I bought part of the company from him, and we ran that up to about $100 million in sales, and eventually sold it to a Japanese company. And then I worked for them for a couple of years, and then after that I basically consulted and worked for, got invested in a number of different startup companies and stuff.
Okay.
But I'm now a little bit past doing much of anything.
Do you still follow pro or Olympic hockey?
Yeah, I watch quite a bit of hockey still. Yeah. It is so big, and so the rinks are too small for these guys. You know, the Olympic rink is bigger than the standard rink, and so the European rinks were all bigger. And the U.S. would have liked to. I think there's been talk of changing them, but I guess it's just so much trouble with the stands and everything in all the stadiums that they never have done it. But it would be better because the game is so jammed up now with these guys. They're so fast and so big that I don't think the game is as interesting as it was when there was a little bit more room to move and people could actually stick handle a little bit. Now, if anybody gets the puck within a microsecond, somebody's on them, basically. So the game would be better with a bigger rink.
Yeah.
They're not going to have it.
Or else just with less players, like I see they've been experimenting with a 3-on-3.
Yeah, that's probably why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Because it probably makes the game a hell of a lot better, more fun to watch. Kind of.
Yeah. One thing I was curious about, just in general with hockey, like I don't personally like the fighting that goes on, and it seems to me like what I've heard in the NHL is that they have it so that they can protect star players, and there's kind of like a code of conduct. But it seems to me like in college or in the Olympics they don't allow it, and it doesn't seem like much of a problem. So I was just curious what your take on that was.
I think it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
They have to keep about 3 guys who are kind of shitty hockey players to hang around so that they can fight.
Yeah.
And they could just put 3 more good players in the game, and if they just started seriously refereeing and stopping the fights, the whole thing. I gather, unfortunately, there apparently must be a fan base that somehow thinks it's really interesting, and it seems to be hard to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But it would be Europe, of course. You couldn't fight at all. You got thrown out of the game instantly, basically. And that's probably what they should be doing. But
yeah. Was that something that started, or was fighting around when you played, or did it start later?
Well, there was fighting around in the pros always.
Okay.
There was no college you couldn't fight.
Yeah.
At all either. And in the Olympics you couldn't fight.
Okay.
But it's sort of. I've always thought it was just sad that it kind of just disrupts the game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Are there any particular teams that you follow or that you like to watch?
I still watch San Jose because I lived in California there for a long time. But they're sort of so-so these years.
How about Minnesota Golden Gophers? Do you still follow them?
Not very much.
Yeah.
I look and see how they're doing. And stuff, but I still donate money to them.
Okay.
I donate to the athletic department every year.
Yeah. Well, I'm originally from the Philadelphia area, so if I had to pick a team, I'd pick the Flyers, but they're not doing too well this year. They got the new coach from North Dakota. but it hasn't really clicked yet. Well, thanks a lot for talking to me. I think that's about all the questions I had. So, yeah, it was really interesting just talking a little hockey. So, I hope you're enjoying your retirement. I'll send you a link when I'm done editing this, and I'll post it, and I'll send it to you. So, but yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it.
Well, that's very nice talking with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. Bye.
All right, bye. So thanks to Jim for talking to me. That was really interesting. Pretty impressive that he followed up his Olympics with a PhD in electrical engineering from Caltech. Obviously, he's a really smart guy. As for the whole fighting and hockey discussion, I've never played the game. I can only speak as a spectator and say that I don't watch the NHL because I don't like the fighting. In fact, if I'm watching SportsCenter and I see hockey fighting come on the highlights, I'll turn the channel. It just really bothers me, and I think it sets a bad example to young kids. It's too bad because I think hockey is an exciting sport that I might enjoy watching otherwise. So hopefully at some point soon things will change and the sport will evolve with the times. So that's the show. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to get in touch with me by email at sweeto37@gmail.com or on Twitter at Project MacGyver. You can also visit my blog and see my podcast archive at themacgyverproject.blogspot.com. Thanks very much. See you soon.